Man, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy Big Dude J, and you are listening to a different shade of purple. Um, I'm going to one of the things I'm going to continue to do, since I have a little bit more time, is start playing games, little no games that people may not be aware of. This here is Pipistrello and the Curse Yo-Yo. Um, what you're going to see gameplay here of soon is of a new game plus. Okay, um, so if y'all want to see me play, certain games that you may be interested in that you may not know of, let me know. All right, and I'll be more than happy to do so. So a hot topic that's going on right now is ABBA. Okay, now as y'all, as a lot of you who may know that listen to ABBA, um, he recently got played, by a Filipino pro. She got on. I listened to part of her video and already knew there was some BS that was afoot. Okay, um, and because when she sat there and she played or rather showed us text message where he said, hey, I don't want nothing else to do with you. Leave me alone. The first thing I said was, why? What would make him say that? Like, what would make a man say this to what is supposed to be a pregnant woman in distress who is going through all sorts of, you know, hormonal hell? Okay, what would make him say that? And then we get his answer, right? And then of course he clears up things. He actually goes to show uh, audio, audio recordings of how he has been dealing with this girl at the time. Now, I didn't really need to hear anymore. There was all sorts of things. He admits, like, hey, there's all sorts of red flags. I should have known better. Like, yeah, you should have known better. You want to know what got you caught up? She was cute and she had good punani. But the thing about it is that, and see, this is the reason why I'm going to tell you. I have no sympathy or empathy for ABBA, none whatsoever. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what he has been through because of this chick. I'm going to tell you why. The big reason why I don't care about what his about the ordeal that he's endured is because if y'all ever been listening to that channel, he has had this stretch where he has gone through and made content where the manosphere is just uh y'all know the text that they put on the manosphere, try to act like the manosphere is something that is false, that is just a bunch of men who are misogynistic, hate women, and also um, they put out content that supposedly show that they're taking advantage of young boys, right? They take a very specific part of the manosphere and just say hey, this this is what the manosphere is all about. Essentially doing that purposely because they want to disregard everything else that men in that space have been talking about. Now, I will be honest with you and say that there are issues about those who call themselves red pill and those who call themselves part of the manosphere, right? There's been some uh, there have been some creators who say that they're not part of the manosphere because of some of the things that they have said. Um, Of course, there's not a lot of women are going to disassociate themselves from feminism, despite the fact of some things that uh, feminists have said, like blatantly saying that uh, that it's far more important that women are believed than innocent men going to jail, right? Like there are actual feminists who have actually sat there and said things like that. So, I mean, wrong is wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit here and say that. I'm not going to sit here and say that two wrongs make a right or whatever. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but it's just it's just a difference. You know what I'm saying? There's it just goes to show that there's a much higher consequence to pay for being a man and making uh, certain commentary. Expressing certain opinions. You get what I'm saying? There's a much higher consequence for you being a man to sit here and say that they made this blatant and on purpose. But anyway, Alba has been putting out a lot of content about the manosphere. Trying to make it out as though it's not real. That men don't really have much to sit here and complain about. You just got to learn to be a man or whatever. And the whole while he's been sitting up here and talking about men and the manosphere, he's been doing this stupid stuff, right? He's been doing stuff. He's been acting in a way that men who have been in this space and have dealt with women like this would tell you to not do. Okay? Only for him to now today or the other day come up and have to do this, you know, real talk sort of thing where, he explains to his followers who and what he is about. I don't care. I don't care. I do not care whatsoever. Um, basically he has placed himself in that situation by being silly to begin with. I'm listening to those conversations where he's having this back and forth, and I'm like, this is just crazy. A woman who is actually into you is not going to sit here and play. They're not going to play these games with a man that they truly want. They're not going to play these games. They're not going to sit there and play in your face like that. This woman was playing in his face. This woman was playing in his face. And anybody else that was just really sitting there listening to this man could tell, like, wow, she she is just really playing this dude. Playing this dude, right? Being what a lot of you people may call a simp, right? But he was not going to sit here and hear it, because he was actually in love with this chick, despite the fact that this chick was not in love with him. And anybody who was on the outside looking at what he was doing could tell, like, yeah, this guy is being put through the ringer because he is that damn easy. And when you come to know and understand, especially like a lot of men who call themselves feminists and are women's allies, this is what they really want you to be. Now, granted, she wasn't really all that good at it. Okay, she was not really all that good at it. She really did not finesse him right. She did not really finesse him right. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, she could have came away with a lot. She didn't. She didn't finesse. She didn't finesse him right. She wasn't that smart. Okay, she wasn't that smart. She had basically a money pig. By the collar. She mistreated him, and now he's gone. This is basically what has happened. And but a smarter woman would have kept leading Abba around by the nose. A smarter woman would have kept leading Abba around by the nose. I mean, again, I can sit here and recognize this because this has happened to me. Like I'm telling you, over the past few years, I personally have experienced the worst that a woman can do. I have a pretty good understanding of what women will do in order to harm a man, in order to use a man, to take advantage of a man, right? But again, mainstream media, they caught a hold, they catch a hold of the narrative. And one thing that women especially are good at are capturing narratives. They're real good at capturing narratives, right? And even if it's not true, women will support other content creators who will promote their agenda. Because if anybody know and understand what a culture war is, it's women. Even though they're not fighting it correctly, because you know, we still see the BS that's going on, but yet still, they will support creators that overall support their agenda. They will. And I believe that's part of the reason why you saw that shift with Amber and Preach, where they were, doing this, these so-called expose vids on the manosphere. They were pandering to their female audience and, you know, raising up their subscribers that way. But they were also doing it. He was actually um, believing the Kool-Aid, sort of. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's what I personally believe. He was believing the Kool-Aid that uh, women were feeding him. But you see what it gets you when you believe things that are meant to harm you in the first place. This is what it gets you. This is what it gets you. And so, I mean, again, he's not going to do anything to go after this woman. He's not going to take that evidence and, use it as a means to try to sue her um, for defamation, right? He's not going to do that. Just like a lot of these guys who go through these things, um, she, they're just going to let her off the hook. It's part of the reason why, when it comes down to a lot of these false allegations, women get away with it, right? It's not just the fact that prosecutors don't want to prosecute women, right? It's the fact that there's a lot of men who let women off the hook, and he let her off the hook. He just constantly said over and over again, "Oh well, it ain't about the money. It ain't about the money. It ain't about the money." And she bought me a gift here with a time or two. But what did she end up getting from you in the end? Right? He paid more out of pocket than he wanted to acknowledge. He just don't want to admit it. He just don't want to admit it. And see, that's the thing that we're sitting here looking at. Right? What she has basically done is what a lot of women, not all, but what a lot of women want to do to men. What they want to have a lot of men in the same mind space that ABBA, at the very least, was in. And that is in a space where they can sit here and use us and not have us think about it. Just accept it. That's what women really want. So look, man, I'm going to tell you. Um, like I didn't know that Abbott had this part of his life going on at the time. I didn't know. I mean, nor should we know. Okay, I mean, look, that's his business. Okay, that is his business. That's his business. Um, it's not his obligation to let us know, every single part of his life. But now that it actually got out there, I can't do nothing but laugh at him. I can't do nothing but laugh at him because he has come out acting like a lot of things that we talk about in the manosphere in these red pill spaces are not real. That women don't do harm like this. Well, now he's experienced it. He's experienced the harm that women can do, especially over the long term. Especially over the long term. One of the things that women love to do is waste a man's time. That's one of the things a woman loves to do is waste a man's time. It's like one of my favorite content creators, Coach Greg Adams, has said, a woman will get a hold of your meat, money, energy, attention, time, and at some point you will pay. You will pay at some point. You pay either on the front end or on the back end or somewhere in between, but you're going to pay. You're going to pay. You can make sure of that because the woman's going to require something out of you. Something, right? So, I mean, for a lot of men who are listening, like, hey, like, look, this is your warning. This is your warning. I have to tell you, um, this is your warning. We want to sit here and pretend, like women don't do no harm, but those of us who have actually had to deal with these things, we know better. We know better. And I mean, I can only help to do, the only thing I can do is just laugh because it didn't have to be this way. It really did. It didn't have to be this way. And that's the thing that I want y'all to understand. You know, he did not have to get, taken advantage of like that. But, people choose to believe, what they want to believe. And, I'm going to tell y'all something. In this bullshit state of Mississippi where I live in, I used to be a feminist, right? I used to be, someone who says, um, believe in, all the harm that men have caused women and that we need to do better. Until I have experienced what I have experienced. And mm, the only thing I can say is that I know better now, pimping. I know better. I know better. You have a lot of these, guys, somebody saying, they would never hit a woman or whatever. You can believe that if you want to. Like I keep telling y'all, I have experienced the worst a woman can do. I have experienced the worst a woman can do, and will continue to do. They will continue. They will continue. They will not let up. They will not let up. And what makes it even worse is they will make an excuse for all the wrongs that they do by saying, well, you want to sit here and talk about the things that we do, but we actually have to fear you unaliving us. Whenever I do get better at creating videos, I'm going to show you the math, but if y'all want to sit here and talk about the violence that men cause, it is true that men cause 80% of violence that you're going to experience in the United States. However, when you juxtapose the number of crimes that have been committed by men in the United States um, onto the rest of the male population, you're looking at I believe, 0.007%. The narrative don't hold up. It just don't hold up. So, like I said, the next time that someone, a woman wants to sit there and throw that up in your face about their so-called fear of being unalived by a man, you just say, hey, when you bring up the total number and put that as a percentage against the rest of the male population, it's very few. It's very few, and yet and still they still choose to fuck with us. They still choose to fuck with us. I'm going to tell you something. You don't fuck with anything that you fear. I'm going to tell y'all that now. I'm going to say that again. You don't fuck with nothing that you actually fear. You don't fuck with anything that you literally fear. All the collective harm that women cause every day, and then want to use the BS excuse of the fear of being unalive, of being taken off the census, as a means to excuse the real harm that they actually do. That don't work for me, and that's the reason why, for any man that is listening to me right now, you don't need to let that work for you either. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to rant incoherently any longer. I will try to do something more scripted here soon. But I just wanted to sit here and talk about it because, uh, I will sit here and say this. You may not want to call yourself quote unquote red pill, but there's still advice that you can take to heart that comes out of the red pill space. It's like one of my favorite creators saying, listen to all, follow none. Listen to all, follow none. I'm done. This is your boy Big Dewey J. I'm out. Peace. Have a good one.